This story takes place at the very, very beginning of ancient Egypt. A very long time ago, the area that is now Egypt was sorted into two different places. They called those places Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. Upper Egypt was in the north, Lower Egypt was in the south. And one day, a man named King Narmer decided he was going to unite those two places. Unite means to bring together. He didn't want there to be an Upper Egypt and a Lower Egypt. He wanted there to be one Egypt, like there is now. Now, this took place a very, very long time ago, so we only know just the tiniest bit of information, which is why this is a very short story. But I can tell you that this story happened in about 3,150 BCE. So this red is the time we're in now, where we're at 2021, 22, whatever this is. When we hit white, we go to BCE, and wait for it. You want this, please? Right about, keep holding, please. Right about here is where the story happens, around 3,150 BCE. That's about 5,000 years before now. Now, some of the things that we know about this time are that in Upper Egypt, there were more cities. If you compare it to the area we live in now, Upper Egypt was more like the area around Portland. Lower Egypt was more rural. There were more farms and things like that. You could say that Lower Egypt is more like the area around McMinnville where we live. There are still cities and towns, but they're not nearly as large. King Narmer decided he wanted them to be one place. Some people believe that he brought the two groups together from Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt in a friendly way by talking and saying, hey, we should probably be one united place. Some people believe that he did it in a conquering way, like with armies and coming into Lower Egypt and saying, hey, everybody here, you have to be part of Upper Egypt now because we're stronger and fiercer and can kill you if you don't listen. And we don't actually know which one it is. There is this really cool piece of stonework. It's called a plaque, and it has a story on it. We'll have this out later for you to look at up close. But the story on it has King Narmer's name right at the very top. There's a picture of a boat. There's a picture of a goddess. There's a picture of the lower king of Egypt's hat, his crown. There's a picture of some fantasy animals, some mythological animals from ancient Egypt. And there are some other things on here. And some people believe that this shows King Narmer fighting to bring the two types of Egypt together. And some people believe it shows him uniting the two pieces of Egypt together in a friendly way. But because it's so long ago, and these pictures are a little tricky, no one actually knows for sure. But one thing we do know is that there used to be two parts of Egypt, and then there was one. And when there became one, that's when most of our Egypt stories start. Something very interesting happened around this time. There were two different hats, two different crowns that were worn by the pharaohs of Egypt. The white crown was the crown of Upper Egypt. I think it looks a little bit like a bowling pin.
Same.
There was also a crown called the red crown. It was red, and it was the crown of Lower Egypt. I think it looks a little bit like a chair. Both of these crowns had a serpent on the front. A serpent is another word for a snake. And most people who study Egypt believe that the serpent on the crowns was to remind people that the pharaoh, the king, was fierce and potentially dangerous if you didn't do what they said. Just like a snake can be fierce and potentially dangerous. When King Narmer united the north and the south parts of Egypt, he started wearing both crowns. He put one crown on his head, and then he put the other one on over the top. And ever since then, throughout the whole time that there were pharaohs, the crown of Egypt looked like this. And it wasn't one. It was the two crowns worn at the same time to symbolize that Egypt used to be two and had now turned into one.